Oh, welcome everyone to Intelligent Voices Israelites. I am your brother Yisrael Yashambaya. Thank you for tuning in again to this segment that we have, that we'll be talking about a very major, amazing topic that I think will be a great thing for everyone. Sorry we are starting so late. Our times were behind probably by an hour. We're mountain time. We usually start at 1:30, but through the preparations and other things that we had to prepare and excuse me, and to get ready, set us back a little bit. So shalom to everyone that might catch the stream or the live stream. Today we have another great, like I say, amazing teaching by the Father himself and our spirits that will be guided through this body of your brother Yisrael Yeshambaya. So let's get into a prayer so we can get started. I think I have an hour and a half window here. Hopefully I'll be able to squeeze in everything. So have your paper and pen where you may, because this teaching here will be dealing with spiritual love made known. As you may have seen at the title that we have at the bottom of the video, describing the detail. So let's go into prayer. 1 sec. Almighty Father, my Father, your Father, I come to you before you with my whole heart, Father. We are your Israelites, brothers and sisters, as we are returning back unto you, knowing that you have us in your love and your care and your mercy, your compassion, for not only our homes, but over our friends, neighbors, and also their children as well. May this grace be unto them as it has been heard to us. Shalom, shalom, and to all who are new and attending this channel, may Yah continue to bless your ears and your heart and to allow your ministry to grow as well, if you are so called to be. Amen. So today we will be talking about the real story, the spiritual love made known. Now, many times we look at love in so many different scenarios and ways, and we have come to realize that many times over, we have made love look in our image. Speaking of in blemish. Because here it is, without pure love, there will not ever be a real true story. Because whenever someone doesn't have full love, this is in any relationship or marriage, that when it's not pure, as Yah is going to explain to us, it becomes now departed. So here it is, in a way, as it's in death or in a stage of waiting still, even though it's married, or it has an attempt of love of marriage, right? And we see this, brothers and sisters, everywhere in relationships. But Yah says the relationship with me, I'm going to show you this love, here it is, that I have, that is now today going to be made known to you, of how and why the love of man is different than the love of my spiritual love of me. And I don't think people ever looked at it to say, yeah, I have myself created love in my image, the way I want to love, how I want to love, right? And you might can say, brothers and sisters, that in some way before you found the law of the gospel, you have made love in your form or in your image before, the way or the rules of how you want to be loved, right? And this pattern of love and thinking have always what came from a background of multiple pieces, because here it is, we piggyback off of other people's love, and here it is trying to attempt it into our own lives at some time. But here it is, when we return to the spiritual love of Yeshua, we now become recognized better by understanding what true love is and how do our Father, the Most High, show us that He loves us. And what detail do He shows us this love? Because now here it is, this spiritual love that we're going to be talking about, it's going to become made known to you real clear now, because it's going to be broken down into the pure molecule crystals of Yah's understanding into us, which we have already received the Spirit, right? So now let's look up, here it is, the word love in the dictionary. And let's see what Weber gives us when we pull this up, right? And most of you should have a dictionary downloaded to your phone, because this is what we ask here at IVI and require. Now, when we look at the word love, it says clearly for a detail A, strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. And then we see another one of attraction based on sexual desire. So now you're seeing two sides of the coin. As I have described it, many of us, many times before we was Israelites, we made love in our own image, the way that we wanted to be loved or how we wanted to extend our love, right? But we had missed the truth by a long shot, because the Bible was missing from every household of every family, teaching the principles from the Bible's aspect better than yours. And this is why we say we have given our will back unto the Father, who now have given us the Spirit of Yeshua, right? Which give us the love that we so need to therefore be productive enough and also aware enough that we are now who we are supposed to be with a purpose. Israelites, right? With love of what? The Spirit of Yah. So now it says, number 2, attraction based on sexual desires or affection, tenderness felt by lovers, right? And then the third one is affection based on admiration, okay, which is, or common interests, right? Someone that shares the same thing or have the same thing in common. Then they say subsidiary, which is an assurance of affection. So give her my love as a definition of sentence. So we see that man clearly says and shows his love that way, right? And many of us see brothers and sisters who we know who is not in covenant, and here it is, still loving in that fashion from a pinpoint view of man, his image, the way he shows affection, right? And when we look at the system of the world, it is also shown us love the same kind of way as is described, right? Because when we look here, it says strong affection for one another. We clearly see that here it is. It has been a battle between those who are equal and unequal, right? For a long time. Because it wasn't shadowing the spiritual love of what we're finna talk about of Yeshua. Because we've been taking man's precepts and we've been self-creating image of love that we are comfortable with. So now here it is. We're going to get to the root to see the definitions and details of why Yah says you see the love that the world has, and you see the details of how they show you love, right? Because here it is, it says strong affection for one for another, arising out of kinship or personal ties. Strong affection for another, arising out of kinship, personal ties. Someone knows someone, knows someone, knows someone, right? That's how you love. Why can't a person love this genuinely out for all? Because then Yeshua says, I have given my life, blood, for you who believe in my love for you. Then I'm dying for your sins. Even for those who didn't even know Yeshua, because they lived in different regions, right? Who never ever met him, still had love for him. This is spiritual love. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're going to be focusing on. In the details on how our Father, Yeshua, and Yahuwah show their love. The real story, not some false story, like I just compared and showed the definition of the world, which have taught its inhabitants on this way of loving, when we clearly see it doesn't even hold up to his own truth when we look at that type of liberty. Because if that was the case, we would have KKK, right? We wouldn't have even brother on brother crime, right? Sister on sister crime, right? Because here it is, he says strong affections for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. So if we live in this way according to love, then we're headed completely for destruction, brother, sister. That's why I say pick up a dictionary. Look at the word. High definition becomes a high definition because here it is, it's in HD in your understanding of heart. So now you can clearly going to grasp of what we're going to be talking about. How do Yahweh show his details of love for us when we are in covenant, right? Let's go to Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. And when you get there, everyone, pay attention. Let me pull this up. This one. Verse 12 through 14. But when Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent our ancestors there a first time. The second time, Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and Joseph's family became known to Pharaoh. Then we just read it in the dictionary. through personal ties. Someone knows someone through someone knows someone. See? And then it says, here it is. And Joseph's family became known to Pharaoh. Then Joseph sent for his father or his earth parent, male parent, inviting him and his whole clan or his whole family, right? 75 persons in all, to Egypt. From where? Canaan. So now here it is. When you look at this story now, you're going to see not only the story of Joseph and what happened to Joseph and why it happened to Joseph. You're going to start to see, everyone, that here it is in this segment. We're going to see spiritual love made known, right? Different than what you just read out the dictionary. Because now, as we just read here, then Joseph sent for his biological male parent, inviting him and the whole family, 75 people in all, right? So now this is just the tip of us discussing spiritual love made known, the real story. How Yahweh shows his love in his detail, okay? And here it is. We just read also, it was said in the dictionary through kinship and also personal ties, right? So now watch this now. We see the parallel, but we see the strongness of this affection in the Bible precepts other than the dictionary. That's what we're proving here. This is what you're seeing here. As my Father teaches us both, as I bear witness in obedience, as he uses the body to allow you to see this truth. Shalom. So now look at Psalms. Go to the book of Psalms. And we're going to be looking at 105. 105. And when you get here, look at verse 17 through 27. As we see the story. He had sent a man ahead of them, Joseph. See this? Now, this is still the spiritual love made known. Because, see, the family at this time didn't know or have no understanding about spiritual love. Today, we have the understanding now better than our ancestors. Because here it is, our IQ have been elevated in each generation, right? So now here it is, as we see here, he had sent a Joseph sold as a slave. They shackled his feet with chains. Now, didn't our people have shackles and chains? Collared his neck in iron. Then they have iron around their neck. Till his prediction comes to pass. In the word of the Almighty, prove him true, right? The leaders sent and released him. The leaders of people set him free. He made him, here it is, governor over his household, ruler over all his possessions, to instruct his prince as he desired, to teach his elders wisdom. So now you're seeing not only was Joseph in a household full of Egyptians, he was also educating them on the IQ-ness of the Hebrew Bible, the scroll of the covenant of Yah, in the wisdom of Yah, being a true leader. So now here it is in verse 23, then Israel entered Egypt, right? So now here it is. Jacob, here it is, lived in the land of Ham. See that? Hamite. Now Noah had 3 sons, right? Ham, Shem, and Joshaphat. So now here it is. We see that now Joseph and Jacob, who was changed to Israel, lived or was in the land of Ham before they went into, here it is, coming out of Canaan, going into Egypt. And then he says, Yahweh greatly increased his people, made them more numerous than their foes. See, the Hamites was against the Israelites at a time. And here it is, even to this day, some that haven't even turned around. Because here it is, they still believe in their own deities, which is Muslim. Okay? Half of them went to another deity, to a deity of a false deities and other deities, and on, right? So you have to understand, the word says, made them more numerous than their what? Foes. Verse 25, he turned their hearts to hate his people, to treat his servants deceitfully. He sent his servant Moses and Aaron, whom he had what? Chosen. They worked his signs in Egypt and in the land of where? Ham. So now we are seeing, here it is, clearly, this is spiritual love being made known to the Israelites, allowing them to know that Yah is for you when you are in covenant, when you're keeping all of the covenant, the festivals, the feasts. Here it is, making your fringes be shown spiritually and physically, okay? Knowing that here it is, your moral covenant with James, 3rd Testament book, applies to you. This is what we're saying, spiritual love. So now here it is, we're seeing in the land of Ham. Okay? Keep that in mind. Let's go to Genesis 44. Watch this. Because Yah wants to make known to you the real story, everybody. So now watch this here. Genesis 44. And I want to look at verse 20 through 34. Clearly says, so we said to my leader, we have an aged, here it is, earth parent, male parent, and a younger brother, the child of his old age. This one's full brother is dead, and since he is the only one by his mother who is left, his father is devoted to him. Here it is. Then you told your servants, bring him down to me that I might see him. We replied to my leader, the boy cannot leave his male parent. His male parent would die if he left him or his side. But you told your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall not see me again, right? When we return to your servant, my, here it is, earth male parent, we reported to him the words of my leader. Later, our earth parent said, go back and buy some food for us. So we reminded him, we cannot go down there only if our youngest brother is with us. We can go, for we may not see the man if our youngest brother is not with us. Then your servant, my, here it is, earth parent, said to us, As you know, my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them, however, has gone away from me. Now we know he's talking about Joseph. And I said, he must have been torn to pieces by wild beasts. I have not seen him since. If you take this one away from me too, and a disaster befalls him, you will send my white head down to the grave, right? In grief. And now here it is. So now if the boy is not with us when I go back to your servant, my, here it is, earth parent, male parent, whom very life is bound up with his, he will die as soon as he sees that the boy is missing. And your servant will send the white head, old age of your servant, our earth parent, down to the grave in grief. Besides, I, your servant, have guaranteed the boy's safety for my, here it is, male parent, by saying, if I fail to bring him back to you, male parent, I will bear the blame before you forever. So now let me, your servant, remain in place of the boy as the slave of my, here it is, my leader. And they got Lord, okay? And let the boy go back with his brothers. Verse 34. How could I go back to my, here it is, male parent, if the boy were not with me? I could not bear to see the anguish that would overcome my male parent. Here it is. So now this is basically showing you that they were following under, here it is, the law. The spiritual love made known to them through their male parent, here it is, through the law. And here it is, we're still seeing that how Yah details his love spiritually upon Israel, as we're seeing through the example of Joseph. Because now it becomes understood how this compassion of spiritual love got to Canaan, right? And now we got to see it in our lives every day, because here it is, everything that Yah does for us, those of us who are in covenant now understand the details of his spiritual love. Because here it is, things manifest, right? And the more they manifest when you are in search of more wisdom, that is better than any other things that you can ever want. And that therefore gives you a more spiritual love imitation. As he says, be imitators of me. And here it is, this protection of grace becomes now a stableism in one's life, right? Because here it is, this spiritual love is made known, different than what we read from the dictionary, as it only parallels but don't keep the promise. Because here it is, we know by this, the phone dictionary, it only approved to us some wisdom, but here it is, made to look like in a way from the truth of the Bible, but not living up to it. Because it said clearly, love, strong affection for another, knowingly or unknown. Brothers and sisters don't have that kind of love in them. And here it is. This is why Yah says your brother, your friend is going to be used as he's obedient in the body to allow the spirit to come forth to you to teach you about this spiritual love made known, that here it is, that you didn't have no clue that you were outside of. Because when you're living parallel to something, you got to realize, is it from the source Or is it a copy from the source trying to make itself look like it? But then you have to analyze, everyone, because here it is. We just stated that this from the dictionary doesn't line up, even though it parallels to the understanding of the Bible, of precepts. Because here it is in the dictionary, it says strong affection. That means equality is weak here in your lives, right? In your world. So that means here it is, people have only made love in their own image off of this, here it is, this logic, which have twisted the truth from the Bible, right? Are y'all with me? All right. So now, here, as we see, we must now look at Genesis 43. Genesis 43 and verse 5 through 7. But if you are not willing, we will not go down, because the man told us, you shall not see me unless your brother is with you. Now we're still showing this example of Joseph telling his brothers to bring their young brother back. And here it is, I'm going to hold this one until you bring the other one. And if you don't bring the other one, I'm going to make sure this one is missing. See that? To get them to understand spiritual love. Because you can see Joseph's family, here it is, didn't have an understanding of this, but have been shown this through Joseph. Verse 6, Israel demanded, why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man that you had another brother? They answered, the man kept asking about us. Here it is. The man kept asking about us. This was Joseph telling his brothers. And this is his brothers telling their father. And here it is, the male parent. The man kept asking about us in our family. Is your, here it is, male parent still living? Do you have another brother? We answer him accordingly. See that? Because here it is, they knew the law, thou shalt not lie. See that? Thou shalt be pure as I am pure. That's what they knew. Right? That was a commandment of conscience. Right? So he says here, we answer him accordingly. How could we know that he would say, bring your brother down here? See that? Because here it is, they Israelites. They are going to tell you the truth. They have a spiritual love that, here it is, that is made known to their heart. And here it is, there's no separation. And this is why Yah, here it is, as Father is teaching us, is saying, this is what you all need to understand. My spiritual love made known to you now. How my details of my love work around you. Do you notice me? So now we see this. Let's go to Judith. Judith. And we're going to look at chapter 5. And when you get to Judith, look at chapter 10 through 16. We'll be reviewing 10 through 16. Now it says clearly, later, when famine had gripped the land of Canaan, they went down into Egypt. They stayed there as long as they found what? Substance. And they grew into such a great multitude that the number of the people could not be counted. And here we go. The king, here we go. The king of Egypt, however, rose up against them, forced them to labor at brick making. They were oppressed and made into what? Slaves. Didn't we just see that a moment ago? And here it is. But they cried out to their Yahweh, and he struck the whole land of Egypt with plagues, for which there was no remedy. So the Egyptians drove them out. Then Yah dried up the Red Sea before them and led them along the route of the Sinai, right? Remember Moses? In the Kadesh, they drove out all of the inhabitants of the wilderness and settled in the land of the Amorites. By their strength, they destroyed all of the Heshbonites. Now we see that going on with Gaza right now, right? Who they were, crossed the Jordan and took possession of all the hill country. Verse 16, they drove out before them the Canaanites. You see that? The Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Shemites, and all of the Gershonites. And they lived there a long time. So now realize this is the spiritual love that Yah allowed to happen for Israel, because they were in covenant. Stand in covenant to the law, to keeping the Sabbaths, by knowing that the Spirit had come and possessed them by Yeshua. Because now here it is, he comes by spiritual love to those who believe and have faith, right? We know that. So now we're seeing the examples of the real story of spiritual love made known, and how the details of this love is applied. Different than what we've seen here. Because here it is, it says strong affection for another in the dictionary. Do you see the world having that for everybody? So therefore, you can see the parallel, but it does not really take from the Bible all of the substance, right? As we see here. Because here it is, our people today need substance. Something that's going to help them grow and develop. And here it is, continue to cultivate themselves in everything that's around them, right? In a righteous way, in a sense quality of salvation with that helmet. Because without it, you're reckless, right? Without the helmet of salvation, we're reckless. So now here it is, what we're seeing here takes us to Genesis 37. Go to Genesis 37. Watch what my Father shows us all. Your Father, my Father. Genesis 37. And when we get here, look at verses 5 through 28. Once Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, listen to this dream I had. There we were, binding sheaves in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose to an upright position, like this pen. And your sheaves formed a ring around my sheaves. See that? Being encircled. And bowed down to it. His brother said to him, are you really going to make yourself, here it is, a king or like a leader over us? Will you rule over us? So they hated him, right? All of the more because of his dream and his reports of his dreams, which are the details. Now, as we continue, he says, then he had another dream in verse 9 and took it to his brothers. Look, I had another dream, he said. This time The sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me, right? When he told it to his earth male parent and his brothers, his male parent rejected him and asked, "What is this meaning of this dream of yours? Can it be that I and your mother and your brothers are to come and bow, here it is, to the ground before you?" So his brothers were furious at him, right? But his male parent kept the matter in mind, what he was listening to. One day when his brothers had gone to pasture their male parent's flock at Shechem, Israel said to Joseph, "Are your brothers not tending our flocks at Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. I am ready," Joseph answered. "Go then," he replied. "See if all is well with your brothers in the flocks, and bring back the word." He has sent him off from the valley of Hishabah. When Joseph reached Shechem, here it is, a man came upon him as he was wandering about in the fields. He says, "What are you looking for?" The man asked him. "I am looking for my brothers," he answered. "Please tell me where they are tending the flocks." The man told him, "They have moved on from here. In fact, I heard them say, 'Let us go to Donathan,' or Dothan, your Bibles might say. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. They saw him from a distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. They said to one another, "Here he comes, that dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of these, here it is, wells. We could say that the wild beast devoured him. We will see then what comes of his dreams." See, this is all about truth. But when Reuben heard this, he tried to save him from their hands, saying, "We must not take his life." Then Reuben said, "Do not shed blood. Throw him into this well in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him. His purpose," didn't I say that, brothers and sisters? His purpose was to save him, here it is, from their hands and restore him to his male parent. So when Joseph came up to his brothers, they stripped him of his tunic, the long ornament tunic he had on. Then they took him and threw him into the well. The well was empty, no water. There was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat. Looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites. Here we go. Remember Hagar, everyone, okay, of Abraham, coming from Gilead. Their camels laden with gum, palm, and raisin to be taken down to Egypt. Didn't we show everyone that there was only two major cities at this time, which was the city of Ekron, which was Babylon. Here it is. And this is where Canaanites and all of them were around these areas of the Euphrates. And then here it is. We had Egypt for commerce, for silk, gold, and so on. So now, as he says in verse 26, Judah said to his brothers, "What is it to be gained by killing our brother and concealing his blood? Come, let us sell him to these Ishmaelites." You see this? "Instead of doing away with him ourselves. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh." Then I say that here it is. We're all Israelites, white, brown, or dark skinned. But here it is. We're seeing and talking about the real story of spiritual love made known, how Yahweh through Yahuwah show the details of different than man, who only try to parallel himself with the Bible, but doesn't follow it completely. So now when we see here, after all, he is our brother, our own flesh, his brothers agreed. Midianites, traders passed by, and they pulled Joseph up out of the well. They sold Joseph, here it is, to the Midianites for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt. So he was sold twice. So now here it is, we are seeing the Midianites are the Cushites. Here it is, as today people call themselves by so-called different nationalities. So now we're seeing, as we're going into this segment, we're seeing that Yah is going to show a way out, because here it is, of the detail of the message of his spiritual love. It's made known to Joseph already. Now he have to get this, and here it is, to his brothers and now to his rest of his people. Because they didn't know nothing about this, because they were still stuck with the grief of what they did in old memories. And see, Joseph done got a better deliverance, and here it is, a better wisdom, that here it is that has elevated his technology of knowledge, okay? Because now Pharaoh done made him have half, or here it is, ruler, second in command of all of what he owns. So now you cannot say this is not spiritual love given through someone that knows someone, as we've seen in the dictionary, through personal ties, right? So now this logic and precepts line up to welcome of love now. Because now we have the spiritual love made known. Now we can welcome it now. Because now what we're reading and how we are started, we can see how it was delivered in the end. But some things may have been missed between brothers and sisters who are Israelites, right? So we must go where? Deuteronomy chapter 1. We welcome of love now, because the special love have been made known through what we're talking about. So now we must welcome the love of this understanding of Joseph, being a showing of Yahuwah. And here it is, as we get to Deuteronomy chapter 1. Oops. And I want to take you all to verse 29. And when you get to verse 29, we're going to go all the way to verse 33. He says clearly, "But I said to you, have no dread or fear of them. The Almighty Yahweh, your Yahuwah, who goes before you, is the one who will fight for you, just as he acted with you before your very eyes in Egypt." Right? "As well as in the wilderness, where you saw how the Almighty One, your Yahuwah, carry you as one carries his own child, all along your journey until you arrived at this place," right? "Despite this, you would not trust the Almighty One, your Yahuwah, who journeys before you to find you a place," here it is, not camp, but to assemble, "by night in the fire, and by day by the light, by the brightest light, to show you the way to go." You see that? So this is welcome love. Those who are basically understanding the spiritual love now understands the welcome love when it happens or shows up in one's life. You can understand that here it is. Now everything is being done because here it is. You understand the love or spiritual love that's been made known to you, but not only have you welcomed that love, you're being conditioned by it at the same time, because this love is to recondition your mind, your spirit, and here it is, later on, your future. Because as we continue on here, let's go to Psalm 78. Whoops, dropped my marker. Let's go to Psalms 78, everybody. Excuse me. Psalm 78. When you get there, look at verse 13 through 17, everybody. 13 through 17. Now, he says, he split the sea and led them across, making the water stand like wall. Remember Moses, the Israelites, as we continuing? He led them with a, here it is, bright light by day, and said all night with by fire. And here it is. He split rocks in the desert, gave water to drink abundantly as deep as of the sea. He made streams flow, caused rivers of water to flow down, right? But they went on sinning against him, rebelling against the Most High in the desert. It's because these Israelites didn't understand the welcome of love. Because the spiritual love had came through Moses. And here it is, someone that knew someone. Then we just seen in the definition of love, it comes also by personal ties. So here it is, Moses was already in Egyptian household before, here it is, the Israelites went into bondage. Okay? Because here it is, we see he freed them by the spiritual love of Yahuwah through Yahweh, the Son. So now it is clear fact, everybody. But they went on sinning. See, everybody want to create their own love in their own image, but it's the wrong way to love. And it is telling everyone, you brother, you sister, you must love from the Bible aspect. And here it is, to realize that you cannot make an image of your own love by your own standards of what you think and how you think you should be loved. Because if it's not coming from the precepts of the Bible, rules and regulations, as an Israelite returning, then you're deceiving yourself, brothers and sisters. Because Yah is telling you, you have to get these steps down into you. Because he know you ain't never heard it, and he gonna show you today. And we're gonna get deep. So now let's continue this as we see. Let's go to Exodus chapter 16. Exodus chapter 16, we're going to be viewing 1 through 14. Having set out from Elim, the whole Israelite community came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month. So now here it is. We got April, that would have been May. After their departure from the land of Egypt, here in the wilderness, the whole Israelite community, here it is, grumbled, here it is, against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, if only we had died at the Almighty's hand in the land of Egypt, the land of Ham, as we sat by our kindles of meat and ate our fill of bread, but you have led us into this wilderness to make this whole assembly die of famine. See that? They never use camp, famine. So now here it is. They use assembly. This whole assembly die of famine. Then the Almighty One Yahweh said to Moses, I am going to rain down bread from heaven for you. Each day the people are going to go out, gather their daily portion, and this will I test them to see whether they follow my instructions or not. See, here we go. They didn't understand the welcome of love, because here it is, through Moses was the spiritual love made known to allow them to be, here it is, driven out of Egypt by a mighty hand of Yah. So this is a welcome of love, right? So now we're in that phase of, and he says, but here does they follow, unless they follow my instructions or not. On the sixth day, however, he says, when they prepare what they bring in, let it be twice as much as they gather on other days. So Moses and Aaron told all the Israelites at the evening, you will know that it was the Almighty One, Yahweh, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you will see his glory of the Almighty when he hears you grumbling against him. But who are we that you should grumble or complain against us? And Moses said, when the Almighty One, Yahweh, gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning your fill of bread, and hears of your complaining you utter against him, who then are we? Your complaining is not against us, but against the Almighty. Then Moses said to Aaron, tell the whole assembly of Israel, approach the Almighty, for he has heard you complaining. But while Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they turned in the direction of the wilderness, right? And there the glory of the Almighty appeared in the brightest cloud of light. Then the Almighty One, Yahweh, said to Moses, I have heard the complaining of the Israelites. Tell them, in the evening twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will have your fill of bread, and then you will know that I am the Almighty One, Yahweh, your Yahuwah. So now here it is, verse 16. I won't even go past that. I went past. But here it is. This is showing you, everyone, 1 through 14 and on, that this is showing the welcome love of Yah. Yah is allowing us to see this clearly, that if you're in covenant, and here it is, you're following after for the truth and receiving it through the will of your efforts, you are welcome to this love, this new type of love of understanding through the spiritual love of the grace that one says they have, as we have lined it up with the dictionary, which only paralleled but didn't match up to those who are Israelites, your brother Yisrael, Yeshambaya, as well as my household. And here it is in your household, because anyone here at IBI would know that you are an intelligent voice Israelite, because here it is, this is what we talk about here, because Father is downloading information to us, and here it is, we're working each other to allow each other to grow from this special love, this grace that everybody don't really truly know about, because they have been following man's precepts. Let's go to John chapter 6, regular John. And look at verse 31 through 33. And what do we see? Clearly in 31, our ancestors ate manna in the desert, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. So Yahshua said to them, right? Amen, amen. Shalom, shalom, I say to you. It was not Moses who gave the bread from heaven, but it was my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. You see this? So now, for the bread of Yahuwah is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the spirit. As you see, they say to the world. How could the world have a spirit? You tell me that. So now it is clear that there is error, but now it's being fixed for your eyes, because when you remove world and put spirit, it becomes more communicative, because now it's directly to you from Yah through the Son. Because now you know Yah says you must pray in spirit and you must come in spirit, right? So now it is clear that gives life to the spirit. So now we know this is a welcome of love from Yeshua, because here it is, it comes down from the Father. And here it is, anyone who has the Father must have the Son, Spirit, as we clearly just seen in verse 33. For the bread of Yahweh is that which comes down from heaven, right? And gives life, not to the world, because the world can't live, only a human being can. So that means here it is, gives life to the spirit of those who believe and understand spiritual love made known to them through the welcoming of Yahuwah's love through his Son. Okay? So now what we see, brothers and sisters, we must go to Deuteronomy chapter 9. Got good time, everyone. It's 3:05 Arizona time, Mountain Time. So we're doing good. We got another hour. So that is great. So now when we get to Deuteronomy, look at verse 22, everyone, through 24. At Taberah, Masha, here it is, likewise, you enraged the Almighty. And when the Almighty Yahweh sent you up from the Kadesh, saying, go up and take possession of the land I have given you. See this? This is that special spiritual love and that welcome of love that I have given you. You rebelled against this command. Then your brother Israel Yashambaya just told you here in our archive and videos, most of you know, that it's conscious that Yah is speaking to us in the spirit. In the first conscience is Yah directly in the Son. So now here it is. They rebelled from this one command against this command of Yahuwah, your Yahweh, and will not believe him or listen to his what? Voice. Now people hear voices in their head. So that means the world don't have a voice. It don't live, right? So you clearly know that it meant spirit, what we just read before. And now it is even clearer that here it is, our ancestors, here it is, rebelled, because here it is, they wanted to make love into their own image again. So that means they was jumping in and out of the righteous spirit for the evil spirit of themselves, which is by flesh. Because now the scripture proves you have been rebels in verse 24 against the Almighty Yahweh from the day I first, what? Knew you. From the first day I knew you. So now this is clear evidence, brothers and sisters, that this spiritual love made known to us is different than what we read in the dictionary, even though it parallels with the Bible. All of its precepts not hold up, even though it's saying what the Bible holds up to. Because we know everyone is not equal in this world. Even though when we looked up the definition of love in the dictionary, Weber, you've seen what was the options of their precepts. And then you've seen how it lines up here with the Bible, because here it is, they took it from here. But they don't live by it, right? So this is what our Father is showing you. How this phone, which is, I'll say, use this as the world. doesn't line up with this Israelite brother. Why? Because I am spiritually loved, not physically loved. So now as I continue, and as we have seen and got here to verse 24, you have been rebels against the Almighty Yahweh from the day I first knew you, right? So now, brothers and sisters, clearly, let's look at Psalms. This is what's been going on. We all, at some point, and right now, as you are IVI member of this channel, some of you who have subscribed and hit notification, and here it is, you are getting downloaded advanced technology wisdom ahead of those who, as we all were once before, Christians, and so on. Because now Yah is giving you a better spiritual love of understanding. And here it is, he's saying it's a welcome of love that now you're in, that we're talking about now. Since now that the spiritual love has been known to your understanding of how I love you and show the details of that love. Different, right? So now go to Psalms. Let's look at 78. Yeah, 78. And I want everybody to pay attention to 5 through 7. Yahuwah made a decree in Jacob. Now we all know Jacob became Israel. So now here it is. We're going to see that we're talking about two different nations at the same time. That of Jacob and that of Judah. Yahuwah made a decree in Israel, established a law in Israel. See that? How could it be Israel twice? Jacob is Israel. So now here it is. Yah made a decree in Jacob. See, the 12 tribes came out of Jacob, everybody. That was the decree. That here it is. Out of Abraham, Isaac will have 2 sons. And one of them will bear the 12 tribes, which we all know came out of what? Jacob. And now he became who? Israel. But they didn't keep the law because those tribes got broken up. We got lost tribe. Then it came down to only 9 tribes. Then here it is. Yah had to raise up Judah as a cub. Here it is that leads the tribes. And here it is under Levi and Benjamin, which then therefore makes up 12. Because here it is, Yah says established a law in Judah. So Israel wouldn't be there. Because we just said Yah made a decree with Israel, right? Which started the 12 tribes of Israel. But he established the law in Judah, tribe of Judah. Because all the elders, even at David's time, went to the elders of Judah for information. Samson, when we go to the judges, okay? So now we're seeing even so on and on and on that he says, which he commanded our ancestors. Now we understand why they didn't keep this spiritual love made known to them. Only temporarily for a minute, and then they jump right back out of covenant. Because here it is, they want to make love in their own image. He says, which he commanded our ancestors, they were to teach their what? Children. That's right, brothers and sisters. People who are outside of the Bible are not teaching their children righteous ways, or their children is not being in no resistance to their parents because there is none. Because the Bible is not in the household. When you start adding the Bible to the household, truthfully, demons flee, as we have read. But now, as we're talking about the real story, the spiritual love made known, we understand it now. But now we're into the welcome of love from that understanding now, right? So now it is clear that he says in verse 6 that the next generation might come to know. Then he says down to the last generation might come to what? Know this spiritual love made known in the welcome of that love that has been made known. So he says that the next generation, in the next generation, in the next generation, in the generation next after that generation, might come to know, as he says in the scripture, children yet to be what? Aware or born or returned, right? In turn, they were to recount them to their what? Children. And then he says that they too might put their confidence, there we go, in Yahweh and not forget Yahweh's deeds. See that? We're talking about the special love in its details. And not forget Yahuwah's deeds, but keep his what? Commandments. This is purifying your understanding, brothers and sisters. Think about that for a moment. When was the last time someone allowed you to see the parallel of the world in the spirit of Israelites? As we just did today with your dictionary, with love, looking up that word. For all of you who are just tuning in to this segment with Intelligent Voices Israelites, with your brother Yazrael Yeshambaya, sending out all shalom, shalom, shaloms to brothers and sisters wherever you may be, to allow you to see the real story of spiritual love made known, and seeing that our ancestors truly knew about this special love, because we just showed you Moses was set ahead of them before the time of their bondage and after. So now, brothers and sisters, go to the book of Numbers. Go to the book of Numbers. And I want to go to Numbers 21. This is something, brothers and sisters. This is allowing you to see that you got to love differently, and not in your image, but in Yah's image. This is the real story. Those of you who therefore say you got love for all, just seeing if you have done what I have asked, downloaded a dictionary, looked up the word love, seen all precepts A, B, and C, in all subject matters of 1 and 2 in that dictionary, you will see that it has a personal tie. You have seen in the Bible there is a personal tie. Joseph to his parents and his brothers, right? Moses to the Israelites, right? And then you have seen that we have put the phone in the Bible side by side, and have seen that the phone have taken its precepts from the Bible, but do not fully live up to love. Because it says strong affection. We don't see people having strong affection for each other today. Not in love. We see it in sexual needs, like we've seen that also in one of the precepts of the dictionary of Weber. People are following that well, but they're failing to realize the hiccup moment of knowledge that you missed the link that's tying you back to a genuine Israelite by true love, not in your image, but in Yahuwah's image. We see discriminations everywhere. And we see a set amount of people being targeted everywhere. And you got to ask yourself the question now that you are seeing this lesson, this segment here on IVI, everyone, can you now digest this truth into your system to realize that your love and the way you love someone, anyone, even a pet, doesn't hold up to the love that my Father Yahweh has for your understanding, unless you are willing to sacrifice a change. Because what we're discussing here now, as we go and must look at verse Numbers 21, look at verse 4. And we're going to go all the way to verse 9. From Mount Hor, they set out by the way of the Red Sea. Now, this is giving you the backstory. Many people watch the movie of Moses, and here it is, never knew about the backstory. So he says, from Mount Hor, they set out by way of the Red Sea. Watch this, to bypass the land of Edom. See, you didn't know they had to go a longer way around instead of cutting right through their cousin's neighborhood, because that spiritual love wasn't yet anointed on the Israelites all over yet. Only a few was given this, and some didn't even understand it either until Yeshua. But the people's patience was worn out by the journey, right? So the people complained against Yahweh and Moses. Why have you brought us up from Egypt to die in the wilderness where there is no food or water? We are disgusted with the wretched food. See this? So the Almighty set among the people serpents, which bit the people so that many of the Israelites died. See this? Then the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned in complaining against Yahweh and you. Pray to Yahweh to take the serpents from us. So Moses prayed for the people, and the Almighty Yahweh said to Moses, make a serpent staff and mount it on a pole, and everyone who has been bitten will look at it and recover. You see this? Moses made a bronze serpent and mounted it on a pole, and whenever the serpent bit someone, the person looked at the bronze serpent and recovered. You cannot tell me that is not spiritual love. And that's not also a welcome of love. It shows a Father Almighty, our Father, discipline our ancestors as he disciplined us today, allowing them to see that you are forgetting something when you transgress this book called the historical record book of your time, my time. Because here it is basically the world being a serpent right now to people in Israelites, which are Israelites, who are unaware that this book speaks volumes. And that here it is a spiritual love made known to the Israelite who is returning in 1,000 generations, as we've seen, down to the generations. So now it's clearly going to take us to the book of wisdom. Go to wisdom. If any of you got the book of wisdom, turn to that, chapter 16. And when you turn to that book, you're going to be paying attention to verse 24 through 28. Verse 24 through 28. As it says in the book of wisdom, for your creation, serving you, its maker grows tense for punishment against the wicked, but is relaxed in benefits for those who trust in you. Therefore, at the very time, transformed in all sorts of ways. Excuse me. It was serving your all nurturing boundaries according to what they needed and desired, that your children whom you love might learn. You see that? Yah want every Israelite to learn. And here it is, that it is not the various kinds of fruits that nourish. See that? But your word that preserves those who believe in you. So now this is clear. You must have a spiritual love different than that dictionary, right? Than the world of man have taught you the way to love, right? So now he says, here it is, but your word that preserves, here it is, those who it is believe you. So man and woman have to come to belief of truth to get this spiritual love made known to them. Otherwise, they'll live as a Christian heathen or any other heathen outside of the truth. Because here it is, they don't see it, because here it is, they're so about their image, their own image, right? So now, Yah says you're free to do that, but also in verse 27, he says, for what was not destroyed by fire melted when merely worn by a momentary, he says, to make known that one must give you thanks before and return to you, right, at daybreak. So now we're seeing this is a parallel of exchange. One exchanging an understanding. And here it is by a knowing, right? Because here it is, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. That's just how it works. So one who gets knowledge have to get it from where? Wisdom. And one who have knowledge must get it from, here it is, understanding must get it from knowledge. So now we're seeing a completeness here. And this is now going to take us to many people have now decided what's best for them. Even though it is now being explained, spiritual love made known by Yahweh through his son is a welcome love for those who believe in the truth and in that type of love. But here it is, can also bear curse. Because here it is, those who are in and out of this understanding, and those who have never understood this understanding but come into it, you have come into the presence not of your brother Israel Yashamba Yah, but of Yahweh himself in spirit of your brother Israel Yashamba Yah. So now, see this, bearing the mark of good or evil, because this is a choice now. Will you keep the spiritual love made known? And will you also have this welcome of love for your brother and your sister everywhere, knowingly or unknown to you? And now this have to be looked at here in Genesis. Go to the book of Genesis. Bearing the mark of good or evil. Watch this. So Genesis chapter 4. Watch this, brothers. Verse 15. My gum just broke up. And when you get here, look at verse 15, if you will. He says, not so. The Almighty Yahweh said to him, if anyone kills Cain, Cain shall be avenged 7 times. So the Almighty put a what? A mark on Cain, so that no one would kill him at what? At sight. Now you see, this is spiritual love. Because here it is, Father Yahweh is making sure, even in this example, his welcome of love. Even though Cain killed Abel. Y'all know the story. So now let's go to Ezekiel chapter 43. Watch this. Look at verses 4 through 9 of Ezekiel. (43) 4 through 9 clearly says, the glory of the Almighty Yahweh entered the temple by the way of the gate of facing the east. Then, here we go, the Spirit lifted me up and brought me to the inner court. And there the glory of the Almighty filled the temple. I heard someone speaking to me from my conscience, but the man was standing beside me. See that? The voice said, here we go, to me, Son of the Most High, do you see the place for my throne and the place for the soles of my feet? Here I will dwell among the Israelites forever, the house of Judah. Neither they nor their leaders will never again defile my set-apart name with their prostitution, and here it is, of their leaders of their dead, right? Or their heathen Gentiles. And then he says, when they place their threshold against my threshold and the doorpost next to mine, with only a wall between me and them, here we go, they defile my set-apart name. See that? They defile my set-apart name by the abominations they committed, and I devoured them in my judgment. Verse 9, from now on, let them put their prostitution, and here it is, their leaders far from me and them, and I will dwell in their midst forever. So Yah says, in order to understand the spiritual love, you have to come out of your image of your made-up love, because it's not going to work out. You got to love according to the way that I want you to love. I set the standards. And right now, it is a spiritual love that bursts out of a person without no attempt of rejecting itself. See that? So now we're clear to see that many are bearing the mark now to choose to either keep creating their own self-image of how they want to love and love others, times those who are waking up and returning back to being an Israelite, as they're called and is, to now being spiritually loved, and it's being made known to them by this love, by Yahweh, welcome of love, right? Because now the full possession must take place in the subject, in the heart of the person, in the individual, and that person have to be truly committed to this type of love. Otherwise, it just won't work, right? So now here it is. Go to Revelations chapter 4. Watch this. Watch what my Father shows you. And now in chapter 4, verse 6 through 8, in front of the throne. So now this is why I tell everyone, brothers and sisters, you cannot be here with blemishes thinking that you are ready. Because here it is, Father is watching all of us. So here it is, you cannot teach from this Bible knowing that you know now of this high technology knowledge of you have gotten from Father through his wisdom. And here it is, those of Judah, who is the 144,000 out there teaching. You have to understand that no blemish must be upon you, because Father is watching. And I'm going to show you how he's watching. Because here it is, many people forget that we have a Father. And here it is, that is the Father above all. Because there's no other Father but this Yahweh, who came in Yeshua's name. Now realize, he says, in front of the throne was something. Now this is John explaining. Was something. Now keep that in mind, that he couldn't quite make out what it was. That resembled like a round glass. Here it is, with the sea in it. Now when they zoom out of camera and telescopes of the earth, it seems like there is water and waves and all kind of things in glass form. So now you can imagine what John was trying to write and say. Something that resembled a sea of glass like crystal, he says, right? In the center, and here it is, around the throne. So not like saying that it was around the throne like many spears, but one spear among this throne in the center of the room. There were 4 living beings covered with eyes in front and in back. And here it is, the front creature or living being resembled a lion. The second was a calf, a third a face like a human being, and the fourth looked like an eagle in flight, right? The 4 living beings, each of them were what? 6 wings. Now, for many of you, you have heard of the 6-winged cherubim, who is at a higher position than the others, okay? So now this is pointing out to you that Father is always raising up a cherubim that will therefore be used to help guide the Israelites or guide the humanities who are Israelites returning back onto the Father through the Son. So now here it is. You see a higher being, 6-winged cherubim were covered with eyes inside out. Day and night, they do not stop. Here it is saying, you see, it says holy, but we don't taught you. It means set apart. Set apart, set apart, set apart is the Almighty Yahweh, the Almighty who is and who has come. Whenever, here it is, it says, and I stop there, and who was and who is and has come, right? So now we're seeing that many people are choosing to accept this seal, which here it is, in a way marks, but here it is, this is a seal of Yahweh, because here it is, Yah is saying that you are Israelites returning, coming back to this spiritual love made known, because here it is, you're not going to love the way the world wants you to love anymore. You're going to love the way I instructed you to love. As I have said, love as I have loved you, right? So now this is clear information to see that now he wants to elevate you as you are welcomed in this love, bearing the seal of good and not evil, as many of our brothers and sisters are bearing the evil, because they're choosing to say, here it is, I'm going to love you how I want to love you, and here it is, you're going to love me how I want you to love me. But both of us going to love the world and serve how they want us to love. Easter, Valentine's, Christmas, birthdays, and on, right? So now as we see clearly, we must go to Psalms. Go to Psalms 137. And I'm have to call it a wrap, and I sure gonna hate to, because I got probably 30 minutes left. So I hope to get this in. So now let's go to Psalms. And when you go to the Psalms 137, I want you to pay attention, everyone. 1 through 4. By the river of Babylon. Didn't I tell you Babylon is on the river of where? Euphrates River. There we sat weeping when we remember Zion, here it is, populace in its midst. We hung up our harps, for there our captors asked us for the words of the song. Now remember when our ancestors went into slavery. Now we're seeing that here it is, they was basically deceived into this slavery through their own people. So now he says, our tormentors for joy sing for us a song of Zion. But how can we sing a song of the Almighty Yahweh in a foreign land? See that? So now we're seeing it is clear that either you keep the covenant of the spiritual love made known to you, or you be rejected from the welcome of the love of Yahweh by bearing an evil mark upon you and not a seal. And here it is assuring you that here it is through our ancestors, as we knew through history, many of them was singing Kumbaya, Oh Sweet Chariot, Swing Low, right? So you have heard of these songs that your grandmama or your uncle or someone who have told you about these things, or your history teacher have told you about these things. So now we're seeing this is basically a choice now. Once one knows about the spiritual love made known, love like I have loved you, the welcome of his love, Yahweh, now you got a choice to make. Will you bear the mark of a good seal or the mark of a bad one? Because here it is, we know what comes when we reject Yahweh's love. Now let's just look at Proverbs. When we stay in our own self-conceited way of the way we think that love should be, this is what happens. Look in chapter 6 of Proverbs, and look here at this by wisdom. Now, everyone, look at this by wisdom. So now here it is. When we get to verse 16, he says, there are 6 things the Almighty hates, and there's 7 on the account are an abomination. A hunty-eyed person, a lying-tongued person, a person whose hands shed innocent blood, and also persons who have a heart that plots wicked schemes, and also a person whose feet is quick to run to evil. And then he says in verse 19, and also a false witness who utter lies. See that? So now we understand that why we read what we read today about Joseph and his brothers, or why they explained to their biological parent why they couldn't go back to Joseph with their brother who was already missing, and who they didn't know who it was him already there. And we done seen that Yah have used his spiritual love made known to the Israelite ancestors and also to us, to this generation, how to truly welcome true love made known by the Bible. Because here it is, when it coming through Yahweh's presence, you have a better conditioning. And here it is, you don't have these kind of sinful practices in choosing evil mark and seal, here it is, over a good one. So now look at Proverbs chapter 10. And I'm just going to run through a bunch of them because I got only like 25 minutes. And here it is. This is going to show you why you're going to keep your spiritual love made known to you today through this segment with IVI, Intelligent Voices Israelites, right? So now, when we get to Proverbs chapter 10, we're going to hold that thought here. Because here it is. It's going to show you why you want to be sealed with good of the spiritual love of Yahweh made known to you through understanding this now through this teaching that he's have shared with us all. Watch this, because he says, Proverbs chapter 10, he says, this is how you reject the nature of sins by wisdom. He says, the Almighty Yahweh does not let the justified or the righteous go hungry. And that's in verse 3. Verse 8, a wise heart accepts commands. See that? That means you got to be willing to be broken to be made perfect, right? Then he says in verse 9, whoever walks honestly walks what? Securely. So now, brothers and sisters, you got to realize you haven't been living according to the way Yahweh says, love how I have loved you. Whoever walks honestly walks securely. Verse 10, one who winks at a fault causes more trouble. Because here it is, you are sealed with evil intentions and following evil intentions. So nothing could get better, not for you or your household, right? So now he says in verse 12, hatred stirs up disputes, but love covers all offenses. So now it is clear that this spiritual love made known by Yahweh, welcome of love. And now here it is giving you the choice to have the seal of goodness in you through this love. But you also have a choice too if you choose to have a seal of badness. Then here it is, you are seeing the rejection, here it is, of the nature of the sin of the individual if they do not keep the spiritual love made known by Yahweh. Because he says hatred stirs up disputes, but love covers all offenses. Verse 14, the wise store up knowledge. See that? What did I say earlier? Your brother Yezreel Yashambaya told you. Wisdom, here it is the root to knowledge and understanding, right? So now in verse 17, whoever follows instructions is on the path to eternal life. Because it is, your spiritual love comes from Yahweh now. Not by your image of trying to love someone the way you want to love them, the way you're creating to love them. No, you're going to love them according to the spirit of Yahweh's love in you, right? So now verse 18 says, whoever conceals hatred has lying lips. Whoever spreads slander is a fool. Now, we're seeing that is clearly people having a choice to be good or bad. But here it is. We done actually show which one is the purest from man and then from Yahweh. Verse 22, it is the Almighty Yahweh's blessing that brings wealth, and no effort can substitute for it. See, when you stop looking at the wealth of the world and start looking at the wealth from the kingdom that is to come from Yahweh, you see better wealth in your eyes, because this is an everlasting thing, right? Not something many and millions have been buried with and have never went with them to the afterlife. As we remember Lazarus and the rich man, all of his wealth did not go with him, right? None of it. So now this is clear evidence. You have been smokescreened by a conditioning of the world that comes from Halil, the devil, or Satan, however you want to call him, and the influence of Judas, whose spirit runs rampantly, betraying this Bible and turning Israelites, right? Because here it is, the betrayer never came back. Now realize in verse 27, obedience of Yahweh prolongs life. Verse 28. The hope of the justified or the righteous brings joy. Verse 29. The Almighty is the stronghold or the steadfast to those who walk what? Righteously or honestly, right? Downfall for the evildoer. So now, as we just seen, having the phone with the dictionary, reading what love says, as is stated here, love, a strong affection for another. As we see, the world do not live by this standard, right? And here it is, we see racism everywhere, right? So we know that man and woman who don't have the precepts of the Bible live according to these precepts. And here it is, also those details that are made up by their own self-conscious on how they want love. So now here it is, this is a thought, a fruitful thought. Attraction based on sexual desire. That is the second, right? We proved that, right? But now as we see here in Proverbs, verse 29, the Almighty is the stronghold to those who walk righteously. Verse 32, the lips of the justified no favor, but the mouth of the wicked is perversion, right? So now this is clear information, everyone. Have brought you into this knowledge. I know it has been a blessed day for all of us, brothers and sisters abroad. I, your brother Israel Yeshamba Yah, thank you all for tuning in to the segment to understand the, here it is, real story of spiritual love made known. And here it is, take these scriptures and manifest them, brothers and sisters. Because here it is, Yah has delivered to you another puzzle piece, downloaded not only to me, but now to you, to take forth to make brothers and sisters stronger than ever before, and allowing those who are willing to reject this spiritual love to completely be set aside on their own will, because they have chose not to be sealed with the goodness of this love of Yahweh. Well, until next time, I am your friend, your brother, Israel Yeshamba Yah, here at Intelligent Voices. It was a pleasure to be here at this segment, and I thank all of you all as well. For you too, who have now come in to catch this live stream after the recording, may Yah be with you in peace and to your homes as well. Shalom, shalom.